Cold wind howled through the narrow alleys of downtown Los Angeles as the night settled in, casting long shadows over the worn-out buildings. A group of homeless people huddled together under a dim street lamp, sharing stories of better days, while clutching thin blankets to shield themselves from the biting cold. Among them was a frail old man named Benny, his wrinkled hands trembling as he tried to light a half-burnt cigarette. Just across the street stood the faded sign of the New Hope shelter, its flickering light barely visible through the grime. The shelter was overcrowded as usual, and a line of weary souls stretched far beyond the entrance. Out of nowhere, a sleek black motorcycle roared down the empty street, its headlights cutting through the darkness. Heads turned, and a few murmured under their breath, wondering who in their right mind would cruise through this part of the city at such an hour. The bike came to a smooth stop near the shelter, and its rider, dressed in rugged leather with his long hair tied back, swung his leg over and removed his helmet. As he looked around, the familiar face of Keanu Reeves emerged from the shadows, his calm gaze sweeping over the shivering crowd. A few recognized him instantly, their eyes widening in disbelief, but most remained oblivious, too consumed by their own struggles to notice the Hollywood star in their midst. Keanu glanced at the line, and then at the shelter's entrance, where a frustrated volunteer was trying to calm an argument over limited spots. Without hesitation, Keanu approached the volunteer, his voice gentle, yet firm. "Hey, looks like you're having a tough night. Need some help?" he asked, flashing his trademark kind smile. The volunteer, a young woman named Rosa, looked up, clearly startled. You're Keanu Reeves?" she stammered, barely able to process the situation. "Yeah," he replied softly, not making a big deal out of it. "What's going on here?" Rosa sighed, wiping a smudge of dirt from her cheek. "We're completely full. It's been colder than usual, and we just don't have enough space. I hate turning people away, but there's nothing more we can do tonight." Her voice cracked with guilt, and Keanu placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. He looked back at the crowd, noticing an elderly woman huddled with her grandson on the sidewalk, both of them too exhausted to even hope for a spot. An idea sparked in his mind, and he straightened up, his expression turning determined. "Give me a few minutes," he said, stepping away and pulling out his phone. After a quick call, he returned to Rosa, who still looked dazed by his presence. "All right, here's what we're going to do. I've arranged for a catering truck to come by with hot meals. Also, I just rented out the community hall down the street for the night. We'll move as many people as we can there. I'll stay here and help coordinate everything." Rosa's eyes widened with gratitude and shock. "Are you serious? That's incredible." Keanu just gave a modest shrug. "It's the least I can do. No one should have to sleep out here tonight." As word spread about the food and extra space, hope began to replace despair. Benny, still clutching his cigarette, watched in awe as Keanu personally helped carry supplies and set up makeshift beds in the community hall. It was surreal, almost like a dream, but the warmth of the food and the kindness in Keanu's actions made it all feel real. No one could quite understand why he was doing all this, but one thing was certain. Their darkest night had just become a little brighter. As the catering truck pulled up and steam from hot meals filled the air, people gathered around, their tired faces lit with a rare sense of relief. Benny approached Keanu hesitantly, unsure if he should say something. "Why are you doing this, man?" Benny finally asked, his voice shaky. Keanu smiled gently, his eyes reflecting a quiet sadness. "Sometimes, we just need to show a little kindness. You never know who's fighting a battle you can't see." Benny nodded, swallowing hard as tears welled up in his eyes. For the first time in a long while, he felt seen, like his existence mattered. As Keanu continued organizing and chatting with the crowd, no one could guess the real reason behind his unexpected act of compassion. A reason that would soon come to light and leave everyone speechless. The night stretched on as Keanu continued coordinating efforts, making sure everyone got a hot meal and a warm spot to rest. Rosa couldn't help but watch in amazement as he moved through the crowd, his presence calming and reassuring. The makeshift shelter at the community hall was buzzing with life now, people chatting softly over steaming bowls of soup, the tension from earlier melting away. As Keanu helped an elderly man find a seat, a young boy tugged at his jacket. He looked down to see a scruffy kid with messy hair and wide, curious eyes. "Mister, are you like a superhero or something?" the boy asked innocently. Keanu chuckled, kneeling down to the boy's level. "No, buddy, just a regular guy trying to help out," he replied, giving the boy a gentle pat on the shoulder. The kid smiled shyly before running back to his mother, who mouthed a grateful "thank you" to Keanu. Rosa approached him, still processing how this famous actor had not only shown up, but practically taken over running the place. "You're really something, you know that?" she said with a smile. Keanu shrugged modestly. "Just doing what I can. People deserve better than this." As they spoke, a tall man in a worn leather jacket barged into the hall, clearly upset. His eyes darted around before landing on Keanu. "Hey, you think just because you're a movie star you can waltz in and take over?" he snapped, his voice rough with bitterness. Keanu remained calm, meeting his glare without a hint of fear. "What's your name?" Keanu asked evenly. "Logan," the man grumbled. "Been living on these streets for years. Seen folks come and go with their pity and handouts. They never last. You'll be gone by morning too." Keanu took a deep breath, considering his words carefully. "Logan, I get it. It's hard to trust when people keep letting you down. But I'm not here to make promises I can't keep. Just wanted to make sure folks had a safe place tonight. That's all." Logan scoffed, his eyes narrowing. "You don't get it, man. This place chews people up and spits them out. You think one night of hot food changes anything?" Keanu didn't flinch. Instead, he gestured for Logan to sit down. "Maybe not. But sometimes one night of kindness is enough to remind people they still matter. You matter, Logan." For a moment, Logan looked like he was going to lash out, but his shoulders sagged as the anger faded from his eyes. He dropped into a nearby chair, muttering, "Yeah, maybe." Rosa stepped closer, whispering, "That guy's got a rough past. Used to be a mechanic before his shop burned down. Lost everything." Keanu nodded, glancing at Logan thoughtfully. Just then, a young woman entered the hall, her clothes worn but neatly kept. She scanned the room desperately, clutching a faded photograph. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice trembling. "Has anyone seen my dad? His name's Logan. Logan McCarthy." Logan's head shot up, eyes wide with shock. "Emily," he whispered, his voice breaking. The woman froze, tears filling her eyes as she saw him. "Dad!" she cried, rushing forward. Logan stood, his tough demeanor crumbling as he caught his daughter in his arms, hugging her tightly. I thought you'd never come back," he choked out, wiping his eyes. Emily pulled back, holding his face in her hands. "I've been looking everywhere for you. When I heard about the shelter tonight, I hoped you'd be here. I've missed you so much." Keanu watched the reunion with a soft smile, feeling a surge of warmth despite the cold night outside. Rosa leaned over and whispered, "How did you know?" He just shrugged. "Sometimes all people need is a chance to reconnect. Just gotta be in the right place at the right time." Little did they know, the real reason Keanu had shown up tonight was still hidden, a truth that would soon come to light and shake everyone to their core. As the night wore on, the atmosphere in the shelter grew quieter. People settled into makeshift beds, whispering softly or simply lost in their own thoughts. Keanu moved through the room, checking on everyone and offering a warm smile to those still awake. Rosa watched him from the corner, still unable to wrap her mind around the fact that one of the most famous actors in the world was here, acting like just another volunteer. Just as Keanu was handing out blankets, a man in a dark suit entered the hall, his presence immediately drawing attention. He looked out of place, clean-cut and composed, clearly not one of the usual shelter visitors. Keanu spotted him and approached cautiously, sensing something was off. The man cleared his throat. "Mr. Reeves," he said formally, his voice low. "We need to talk." Keanu guided him to a quieter corner, keeping his voice calm and steady. "What's going on?" The man hesitated before glancing around, making sure no one was listening. "I'm from Blackwood Industries. We didn't expect you to be here tonight." Keanu's jaw tightened. He knew exactly who they were. The same corporation that had been eyeing this neighborhood for months, planning to buy up property and push out the homeless community to make way for luxury developments. Keanu didn't respond immediately, and the man continued. "Our team is supposed to evaluate the shelter tomorrow. We've already secured most of the land around it. This is the last piece." Keanu looked past the man to where Logan and Emily were still talking, tears of reconciliation in their eyes. The anger simmered just below his calm demeanor. "You're planning to demolish it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," the man admitted. "It's scheduled for next week. But with you here, it complicates things. We can't afford bad publicity." Keanu crossed his arms, his gaze steely. "You're not tearing this place down." The man stiffened. "Mr. Reeves, it's a business decision. The property's worth millions. Your involvement only delays the inevitable." Keanu leaned in, his tone firm and unyielding. "People live here. Real people. You're not just taking a building. You're destroying their lives. I won't let that happen." Before the man could respond, Rosa approached, sensing the tension. "Is everything all right?" she asked cautiously. Keanu gave her a reassuring nod before turning back to the man. "Tell your boss that if he wants a fight, he's got one. But it won't just be me. It'll be every person here, and everyone who cares about them." The man hesitated, clearly not expecting this level of resistance. "I'll pass the message along," he muttered before slipping out into the night. Rosa looked at Keanu, concern evident on her face. "What was that about?" Keanu forced a smile, not wanting to worry her. "Just someone who doesn't understand what this place means to people. But don't worry, I'm not letting them take it." Rosa's eyes softened, but she sensed there was more to the story. "You're not just here to help, are you?" she asked gently. Keanu hesitated before finally admitting, "I heard rumors about this place being threatened. Thought maybe if I showed up, I could buy some time, figure out how to protect it. But it's worse than I thought." Rosa took his hand, squeezing it gently. "You're not alone in this. We'll fight them together. This place is more than just walls. It's hope." Keanu gave her a grateful nod, his resolve strengthening. But deep down, he knew that facing down a multi-million-dollar corporation wasn't going to be easy. And what terrified him most was the thought of failing these people, the ones who had already lost so much. As the night grew colder, Keanu sat beside Logan and Emily, listening to their stories and realizing just how much this shelter meant to so many. He couldn't help but feel a surge of determination. If they wanted this place, they'd have to go through him first. But he couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was just beginning, and the price of saving the shelter might be higher than he ever imagined. The following morning, the shelter was buzzing with activity. News had somehow leaked about Keanu's presence, and a few reporters had gathered outside, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. Keanu stayed inside, helping serve breakfast alongside Rosa, Logan, and Emily. Despite the tension from last night's confrontation, he kept his usual calm demeanor, joking with the residents and lifting their spirits. As they sat around a makeshift dining area, Keanu noticed Emily looking worried, glancing toward the windows where camera flashes occasionally flickered. He leaned over and gave her a reassuring smile. "They're just looking for a story. Let's give them a good one." Emily managed a small smile, but her eyes betrayed her fear. What if they find out about the shelter being torn down? People might panic. Keanu thought about it for a moment before glancing at Rosa, who was distributing plates with an unbreakable determination in her eyes. He knew that if the community found out about the demolition plans too soon, it could cause chaos and hopelessness. They needed a plan, something concrete to rally behind. Just then, the front doors swung open, and a tall man in a designer suit strode in, followed by two intimidating bodyguards. The room fell silent, and Logan instinctively moved closer to Emily, sensing trouble. The man approached Keanu directly, ignoring the cautious looks from the residents. "Mr. Reeves," he greeted with a cold, businesslike smile. "My name is Richard Blackwood. I'm the CEO of Blackwood Industries." Keanu remained calm, setting his coffee cup down slowly. "And I'm guessing you're here to explain why you're trying to tear down a shelter full of people who have nowhere else to go." Richard's smile never faltered. "It's not personal. It's just business. This property is valuable, and the city's already approved the redevelopment. We're building luxury apartments. The shelter's been on borrowed time for years." Keanu folded his arms, his gaze unwavering. "People live here. You're not just taking land. You're taking their lives." Richard raised a brow, unimpressed. "And what will you do? Buy it yourself? Even if you did, the permits and zoning have already been pushed through. You can't stop progress, Mr. Reeves. I'd advise you to step aside before this becomes a bigger issue than it needs to be." Rosa couldn't hold back anymore. She stepped forward, her voice strong despite the fear in her eyes. "This shelter saved me when I had nothing. It saved dozens of us. You can't just take it away like it's worthless." Richard barely spared her a glance, focusing solely on Keanu. "It's unfortunate, really. Sentimentality doesn't pay the bills." Keanu's jaw clenched, and he took a deep breath before responding. "You're underestimating what this place means to people. It's more than just a shelter. It's a community. You can throw your money and power around all you want, but I'm not letting you destroy this place without a fight." Richard smirked, as if amused by the challenge. "Then I suppose I'll see you in court," he said, turning on his heel and leaving without another word. His bodyguards followed, giving Keanu and Rosa cold glares as they passed. As the door closed behind them, Rosa let out a shaky breath. "What are we going to do?" Keanu glanced around at the worried faces of the residents, his mind racing through possibilities. "We're going to make sure the world knows what's happening here," he said firmly. "If they want a battle, we'll fight them on every front. Social media, news, public support. We'll tell the real story, and we'll make sure people care." Logan stepped forward, determination burning in his eyes. "You can count on us. We'll spread the word. We'll get the community involved. They can't just bulldoze us without anyone noticing." Keanu nodded, grateful for the support. But he knew this was just the beginning. Blackwood Industries wouldn't back down easily, and time was running out. If they didn't come up with a plan to save the shelter soon, it would be gone, along with the hopes and lives of everyone who depended on it.